the for-profit civic startup. As my friend Blake Janelle puts it in his top 10 ways you know you're a social good startup, number 9, VCs think you're a hippie and nonprofits think you're a capitalist. Good morning, everyone. My name is Keya Dannenbaum. I'm the founder of the for-profit civic startup Elect Next, and I hear this kind of thing every day. From the business side, the presumption is we're never going to make real money because we're too distracted trying to do good. And from the nonprofit side, the presumption is we're never going to realize a great civic agenda because we're too distracted trying to turn a buck. My goal today is to refute both these claims because these misperceptions hold our community back from using every means at our collective disposal towards achieving the civic ends that commonly inspire us. So to start with the claim that generates from the business side, that a civic mission distracts from building a great business, I'll show today that quite to the contrary, civic startups become great businesses not in spite of mission, but because of it, in 3 ways: team, product, customers. Starting with team. Any early stage startup investor will tell you that the number one thing they look for in an investment is team. And likewise, any founder will tell you that identifying, qualifying, attracting, motivating, and retaining top talent are some of the most important and also the most time-consuming and challenging of their activities. Mission helps on all counts. Warby Parker founder Neil Blumenthal prophesied at the Wired conference last month, you won't be able to hire talented people over the next 10 years unless you're a mission-driven company. And the data back him up. A 2010 Pew study showed that millennials place a higher priority on meaningful work than money. And it's not just the kids. A 2005 Encore.org study showed that over half of boomers say they'd be open to a career switch if it gave them a sense of purpose. At Elect Next, we have seen over and over that our mission is our beacon. It is why people approach us to ask if we're hiring. It's why we can poach from other places with an offer of more work and less pay. It is why our vacation policy is to make sure our employees take them. Conclusion number 1, civic startups coalesce great teams, not in spite of mission, but because of it. And now that you have the right people, you can begin the insanely hard work of building the right thing, which brings us to product. There is a scientific, hypothesis-driven way to approach new product discovery that derives from the lean startup, and that is to build, measure, learn in short cycle times and then decide whether or not to pivot. And a pivot, and this is important because many people use this term the wrong way, a pivot is a structured change in strategy without a change in vision. A structured change in strategy without a change in vision. In other words, the correct process for good product discovery is to put vision at your core and navigate the rest of your activity around that. Does that not precisely describe the purpose-driven company? At Elect Next, our core vision, the reason why we do what we do, is to build a world in which people can easily access the information they need to take informed, effective political action. How do we do that? Well, we do big data analytics to profile your politicians and deliver relevant, actionable information. And what do we build? Well, this is the product realm in which we get to build, measure, learn, and pivot. So we started out with a voter candidate matching tool. It was called an eHarmony for elections that lived on our home site, electnext.com. But after building, measuring, and learning throughout the 2012 cycle, we pivoted to baseball card-style profiles on every US politician that live in your political news. Now, I'll talk about how that's going in a minute, but the point here is that by putting vision at our core, we have been able to execute true lean pivots with respect to both product and channel. So conclusion number 2, civic startups engage in great product discovery, not in spite of mission, but because of it. So you've got the right team and you're constantly iterating towards the right product. Now you need customers. Are you surprised to hear me say that mission is critical to that effort too? Simon Sinek would agree because of his golden circles theory. And his golden circles look exactly like those. Sinek's argument is that people don't buy what you do, that's the outer circle. They buy why you do it, that's the core. They don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And because this is true, he says, companies that focus on the why over the what obtain a natural go-to-market strategy. They can much more easily suss out their innovators and early adopters, that group of people that latches on to the why and just gets it, and who you have to capture by definition before you can move into late adopters and the early majority and eventually the world. At Elect Next, our short experience bears out this theory. Our why is to help the public be more politically informed and effective, and our very first media partner for the earliest, most rudimentary version of our candidate matcher was The Economist, which blew us away at the time, but under this theory, it actually makes sense. They were in it for the why and totally forgiving on the what, thank goodness. And because they led, who followed but the PBS NewsHour and the Bill Moyers Journal and the Washington Post and then NBC Politics and Hearst Web Properties and Comcast Web Properties and many, many state and local outlets throughout the country. Conclusion number 3, civic startups find customers, not in spite of mission, but because of it. And far from the claim that a civic mission distracts from building a great business, civic startups become great businesses, not in spite of mission, but because of it. So the obvious question, after making this case for mission in business, is if this mission thing is so great and it's so important to you, why subject it to the profit constraint? Why not just be a nonprofit? So we're on to this claim. Let's work through it. It is absolutely true that as a for-profit company, we have to make money. So with respect to mission, we are operating under conditions of constrained optimization. The fallacy, though, is to think that replacing for with non eliminates not just the profit constraint, but all other constraints as well. When the fact is that trading for non is actually a trade-off for a larger and possibly even more restrictive set of constraints. Let's take a look. Dan Pallotta makes one of the most widely traveled arguments about how structural restraints on nonprofits undermine their mission-achieving potential. He cites the inability of nonprofits to compensate competitively, advertise and market, take risks and fail, invest in scaling infrastructure, and participate in capital markets as some of those restraints. Now I look at that long list and think to myself, the only thing that we have to do is make money? Maybe that's not so mission debilitating after all. And it's not just the number of constraints, it's their nature as well. On the startup side, our constraint to make money mandates growth. On the nonprofit side, each of these constraints stifles growth. And that's because, as Pallotta argues, there's a deep and pervasive belief among nonprofits that their dollars can go only towards direct service, to the detriment of investing in growth opportunities like the ones enumerated here. So allow me to just spend a minute on growth. Growth is important for a lot of really obvious reasons. It's one of Maslow's fundamental human needs. It's how we make a bigger mark on this world. But for the purposes of this argument today, I want to show how, in a mission-driven context, growth is even more important than we might otherwise think. And to do that, I will turn to Dan Ariely's Lego experiments, in which he compares groups of people building a series of Lego figurines under 2 conditions. Condition 1, growth, in which you repeatedly build these figurines and see your finished work line up in front of you, and condition 2, stagnation, in which you also repeatedly build these figurines, but you don't get anywhere because your work gets continuously destroyed. Now, Ariely finds that growth is motivating and that people build many more figurines under that condition than they do under stagnation, but that's fairly obvious. Much more interesting is what happens when Ariely factors in how much people love Legos. In other words, the substance or mission of the work. Now, I don't know about you, but I have always believed that mission is an intrinsic motivator that, irrespective of external conditions, if you love what you're doing, you'll persist with it for longer. And indeed, under growth, this is exactly what Ariely finds. More love for Legos, more figurines get built. Unexpectedly, though, under stagnation, that relationship doesn't hold. More love, less love, same number of figurines. And that result is stunning to me because it says mission does motivate, but only when the external conditions are right. Absent growth, its effect extinguishes. So to share just a bit of our own growth experience at Elect Next, with our 2012 candidate matcher, our growth curve looked like this: 0 to over 3 million unique users in just about 4 months. I mentioned that we pivoted to a baseball card profile product, and so far our growth curve looks like this: 0 to about 1 million in just 6 weeks. So when people ask me, if you really cared about mission, why are you bothering with this profit thing? My response is, what's the alternative? That? And to give up that? Now, before moving on, I want to be very, very clear about one thing. Nonprofits do amazing, essential work. Code for America, the Sunlight Foundation, Open Secrets, Open Congress, Follow the Money Project, Vote Smart. Neither I, nor Elect Next, nor our space would be here without them. And it is absolutely true that not every civic mission is monetizable, and that nonprofits have a vital role to play reaching those spaces that governments and for-profits can't reach. My point here is simply to dispel this claim, and to explain why, when I founded Elect Next, it was not counterintuitive to me to reach for a for-profit structure precisely because I was optimizing for mission. To conclude, my goal today was to refute both these claims. Doing so gives rise to two really important reasons why a vibrant and successful for-profit civic sector is good for all of us. First, I argued that both for-profits and nonprofits alike face different sets of organizational constraints. Because that is true, we tackle different problems, cater to different constituencies, assert ourselves at different points in the value chain, and build different products. That rich variety in approach will be essential to this young field achieving the ultimate outcomes we all want to see. And if diversity of organizational structure can inspire that variety, then let's shed our skepticism and embrace that diversity. Second, I argued that mission drives great business. So if we heed the diversity call and our space continues to hum and buzz and diversify and grow, our organizations will start to stratify. Many will fail, some will survive, even thrive, and a few will win big. When a civic nonprofit wins big, it is a remarkable thing. They achieve real, meaningful outcomes we all stand behind. When a civic for-profit wins big, not only do they achieve real, meaningful outcomes we all stand behind, but our space gains. Exited entrepreneurs. These are people with deep commitments to our collective work who can now reinvest in both for and nonprofits, by the way, with their time, networks, expertise, and of course, their newfound capital. We are here this morning because we believe in applying technology, not quite yet, in applying technology towards government, governance, elections, transparency, our democracy. Let's be sure to use every means at our collective disposal towards achieving those civic ends that commonly inspire us. Thank you.